Welcome again to our Facebook friends, our YouTube viewers, our family and friends who have been keeping up with our series Courage in the Crisis, which has been coming to you from the East and West Indies province of the Moravian churches. We are here again this June 25th just to bring all the faces together, bring all the issues together as we look at, going through this COVID pandemic and also going out and back into a new season, if you want to call it that. I am Billy Sterling Lewis, and we have our wonderful team with us. This is the team of persons who have been behind this whole experience. So we have one person missing, which is our brother Brian. He is our psychiatrist. At this time, we just extend our prayers and support to him and his family. They lost their mom last week. And so at this point, they're well caught up in the, arrangements of saying their final goodbye. So Brian, whenever you hear this, we are praying for you. You are in our thoughts and our warmest regards with you and your family. But the rest of us are here. We have Andrea from Antigua. Say hi, Andrea.
Hello, everyone.
We have Janita. She's in Barbados.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, and we have Chanel here in Tobago with me.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
And our wonderful, youthful, and just very involved PEC chair. Do you know what PEC chair stands for? He's going to tell you. This is the Reverend Algernon Lewis. He is in Antigua. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. PEC stands for Provincial Elders Conference. It is the administrative body of the Moravian Church in the East and West Indies.
All right. So he's the politically correct one. I'm just going to say he's the bigger boss. So welcome, sir. And it's so good to have all of you here. Let's do it as we normally do. Let's do a check-in. How are you guys doing? Rev, can I start with you? Your head here. How are you doing? You're in a unique place. What's your space and state now?
Well, taking it as it comes. I'm a little unsure from the perspective that we've had 26 cases in Antigua of COVID-19. Managing that, been away, moving slightly away from that, and then all of a sudden we got 39 added to that, so 26, and so it's like we're starting all over again. So there's that level of uncertainty, even though now churches have opened and people are basically back to normal in some regard. So we just have to figure out now, what is this new normal going to be like, and even more so understanding that we are just having to live in this space of uncertainty. So trying to balance that right now.
Yes, we're all dealing with that. What about you, Janita? What's happening on your end? How are you?
I am fairly okay. This week has been moderate in terms of my stress level, so I'm thankful for that. I'm coming out of a really tough couple of weeks, so I'm thankful that I actually have time to sit and eat and stuff, so that's great. As should everyone. Everyone should be sitting and eating. Do not take any bad habits from what I'm saying. But I'm okay. I'm continuing to push through each day, one day at a time. And I think that's been very helpful.
Excellent. What about you, Chanel? How are you doing?
I'm good. These past couple of weeks, there have been a challenge, trying to readjust, trying to deal with the 2 days on or 3 days on, how many ever days you have, balancing sickness because life doesn't stop, so different things come into play, but I'm good mostly. Yeah, thanks.
Excellent. Andrea, how are you doing today?
Hey, well, it has been a bit of a roller coaster week. We had quite a few activities. It's the end of the school year, and we had several we took the opportunity, and it was really a good opportunity to have several different outreach programs, students, parents, and so forth. So it had been a very busy week. And I was looking forward to today, because today too ended a half of the program. But then, as Rev mentioned, we yesterday just rocked all the transitioning, and for me, that with COVID-19, there's a lot of uncertainties that come with it. But I think I don't know if you want to call it that sense that we had made all these necessary transitions, transition out, transition into the lockdown, transition out of the lockdown, transition to a longer day. And then yesterday was just like, it just came crashing down. Where are we at now? And how is that going to impact all of us? And I know that for many of us, it's unnerving to use one of a better word. And so there is this pause right now that, you kind of feel you're back at the start of the road, when you slid down the mountain.
Yeah.
So now how do you get back up? And so I think for me, that's where I am at this moment.
Wow. I mean, I think that is a good place for us to delve into the whole mental health issue because, as Andrea correctly said, we are going through this. We thought we had come to a place, and while we're not in Antigua with her and Rev, we have our own challenges. I think all of us in the Caribbean are dealing with the Sahara dust, and now you have to go to another scare of whether your Sahara dust symptoms, like mine, are maybe some sort of, new COVID strain. But what do we do then in this new transition period as it relates to our mental health? Janita, can you start us off there? How do we address our mental health and keep a solid mental health in this time, in this new transition stage?
Thanks, Billy. Even listening to Andrea talk about those feelings, I think one of the real critical things that persons need to do, and I hope persons have been learning to do this throughout this whole experience, is to, one, recognize that health is health. So mental, physical, emotional, we technically only have one body. We don't have a floating head and a floating emotions. It's all integrated into one thing. So we cannot discount the impact of our emotions, our thoughts, our physical sensations and pain and everything. We can't discount the impact each of them has on the other. One would call it a biopsychosocial, and they will even go even further, model that idea that everything is integrated. So when we think about mental health, I want us to think of health and wellness just in general. Every aspect, as we dealt with for the last few weeks, finance, food, relationships, everything is health. And when we think of mental health, the other thing is, I really think I hope we've been learning to pause and to just assess ourselves and to sit with ourselves and recognize, where am I at right now? I think that's one of the most critical things that a person can do for their mental health, to just take a pause and assess where they're at, acknowledge where they're at, and begin to accept that. Because sometimes we want to live in denial and think, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't think that way. No. However we're feeling, however we're thinking, one of the things we really want to affirm is that it is valid. Wherever you're at is valid. Even if you feel like you're starting from the beginning, whatever you feel, it is valid. And I think that's one of the most critical things in terms of mental health.
Thank you for that.
As you're talking about that, Janita, 3 John 2 comes to mind that says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth." The reality is that usually the church is talking about your spiritual health. We realize that no, we are body, spirit, and soul. So they're tripartite, and God is concerned about all of that. God is concerned about you in totality, not just your soul going to heaven, but that each of us in totality. So mentally, that we are fit, that we are balanced. Because if I'm not balanced mentally, that I cannot really make good choices, and I really can't be a very good servant of God if I'm not balanced mentally. And in this COVID crisis, the reality is God is calling us, I believe, to come to a place of balance where we come into an economy of trust, into, if you wish, an ecosystem of trust, where we're saying we live by trusting God, not by leaning on provisions from anywhere, not by hoping that my job is spared or something else. But listen, God, daily, you supply the manna that I'm requiring, because we cannot trust what is going to happen next. And that's one of the messages I'm hoping that we get, even as we listen to these things that we've been talking about, so many issues that people are facing, that there is no magic bullet. The only point of thing is saying, hey, we want to move away from this economy of dependence on the things that are around us, the Caesar stuff, and just say, okay, God, it's an economy of trust. That's the currency that we're operating on. Faith, just leaning on you, because we have no other abiding city, if I may use that expression.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. I love that terminology, the economy of trust. Let me tell you, because a lot of other economies right now are crashing. We need that. But I'm also glad you brought up that scripture where God, the writer said, he wants us to be in good health as our soul prospers. So we are not expecting at this point to just, wish things away or pray things away as we normally do. But we have to be realistic, and we have to be focused, and as the word you use, balance, as we deal with this situation. Now, Andrea touched something in her introduction, her feelings check when we started out. And I'm going back to this economy of trust. I love it. I'm going to hold on to it for the day. But we are seeing the transitions. We heard what's happening in Antigua. We are seeing what's happening in the US. As a matter of fact, there's some states where they have low new cases now are saying we're going to ban people from coming, not ban, but they're going to put them on 14-day quarantine if you're coming from Florida or Texas. Those states that have just gone out of control in this last week or so with new cases. And so it almost seems as if we are going through a cycle of highs and lows, and we have gone so quickly back to a low. Can we talk about the feelings, the emotions that we are very likely to experience in this time of transition, but not the transition we expected? Because we thought we were going back to congregating and liming and hugging and kissing and open house dining and those sort of things, but we've gone back into a state of shutdown without shutting down as yet. What are some of the emotions that we can experience there, and we can help people understand that they could experience at this time? Let's start with the hopeless, depression. Shanna, do you want to start with some of those?
Okay, so I like the whole idea that you spoke about emotions, which Andrea would have mentioned, and I really like how Janita spoke about the holistic health of the person, because I think one of the things that this whole period of COVID-19 did, it was that it brought on board mental health to kind of balance out what we were seeing with our physical health and diet. And so sometimes persons dealing with these challenges, it seemed as if they were secluded somehow, and they only had conferences and seminars that would just deal with these things, but in seclusion. But it kind of brought it out even more into the forefront. And so people were constantly hearing about issues of suicide, depression, domestic violence. And, you had these things coming into play, even with the whole issue of this George Floyd's death in the States. And, that coming on board, and everybody were up in arms, and the whole issue of racism, and not just racism in terms of just the United States, but people were beginning to look in their individual countries and looking at the different issues coming out. People were looking at statues coming down, and there were some strong emotions coming out of this. And whenever you go through a transition, whenever you go through a traumatic situation as a people, whenever these things happen, there will be collective things that affect us. And so, for example, people have strong opinions in terms of whether issues like depression and suicide in terms of work and how that has affected in the workplace. But now going back in it and transitioning back to work, these issues have to come to the forefront, because before, where people had these issues and they were in the workplace, and it was either kind of hush hush, where people were either speaking about it behind their backs or probably laughing in a cubicle. Now it has to come up, because you have to have a different mind frame. Some people aren't even prepared to go back to the normal 5 days a week. Some people are, and you have to be able to balance. And what about those people that actually have challenges going back out? So it brings that into play. It also brings the issue of finances. Some people not just depressed in terms of the situation, in terms of what COVID-19 seemed to have taken away, and we would have touched on grief and loss in the whole process, what it would have taken away. And so for example, finances, and some people, we still not getting some of the relief that the government spoke about. And so some people still feel like, well, all the help that they got, like, I still have a crisis, I still have an issue, how am I dealing with that? And so on top of all of that, they're still dealing with these different feelings, these different sense of helplessness, of hopelessness, with the different challenges that they're going through, because life doesn't just stop, life keeps happening. And so those are some of the things that I saw coming out.
Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned the crisis in the crisis. We used that phrase before as well. There's so many other crises taking place around us. It's almost as if we walked out of the pot into the fire, or from something into something else, because it's not stopping. And somebody was talking about, I think we've seen lots of the memes on Facebook about starting over 2020. So I saw one the other that made me laugh. He's like, I'm just gonna cook a ham and make some sorry and call it a year. And I'm like, you feel almost. And I thought, well, I could do with some sorry right now, because it is something to hold on to celebrate. The transition is tough. Andrea, I wanted to pick up on that, but I'm thinking about some of the things that are happening, even for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. The murders have started to just go back up, where we had days without any killings. I can think of at least 2 days where we had no crime. I'm like, ooh, this feels nice, and then all of a sudden we have like double murders and 4 in a night. I'm thinking, really, y'all need COVID to come back. But what is the transition doing to us at this point? And there's so many aspects of the transition. And just start us out, touch on some of the Reverend, I'm going to ask you to bring it, come in on some others.
And I think, the transition in, because we got to a point, I think, for a lot of us and for a lot of persons, where this became the new norm for you. Okay. So I remember when we had our lockdown until 12 midday, if a car passed on the road after 2, I'm looking out, because that's a big deal, because no cars are supposed to be there at that point. I live close to the airport, so hearing planes was not a part of the thing. So if I heard a random plane before the first, I'm looking out the window to see what, if I can figure out, well, I know when it's a small or large plane. I've lived around the airport for a long time, but I'm looking to see if I can see it and so forth. So, and then you start to realize how simple things that you were accustomed to became different. Even the idea of transitioning back to go to the supermarket, do it in the regular hours, it was different. Getting to work, going to church, there were so many different things. And then, so when you have to, it's not as simple as we think it is in a lot of cases. And, it goes back to where we started, where we have to have a greater level of self-awareness. Recognize that our anxieties at this moment are based on the things that we're doing. Because I'm accustomed to being at home, and then you're asking me to come out to work. Really? But I have been working at that same place for the last 20 years, never absent, never late. And I don't want to go back, right? So I think that level of self-awareness that, the anxiety is about this new, and that there is that after, well, you said it is 21 days for us to develop a habit. We're home for 3 months. And so there is that idea that that's those sensations that come with it. But then there's also that, when is this going to change? Is this going to change? And for those persons who don't have a job to go back to, what am I doing? So when you watch the other people around you going back out and being in that financial position. So, we have to recognize, and as individuals, we also have to recognize what is causing us our angst. And I think that is important.
That thing you mentioned about being honest, Rev, I'm going to say this quickly. That thing about being honest, I'm thinking about us as helpers. How honest are we with ourselves when we're with ourselves with what's going on? Because when Andrea just said, she's been at this workplace for 20 years, and now after 3 months, whom I don't want to go back, that just rang so loudly for me, because I have a similar situation, and I go into work and I'm thinking, why am I even here? Why am I even here? And it's just difficult. The anxiety has taken a different form. Rev, go on. Share as you were going to share.
I was listening to to Andrea talking about, and you also believe suggesting, saying over the period the murders went down. Everything, we lived in this placid society. All
Mm,
of us were adjusting to the reality that there was something out there that we didn't want to have happen in our lives. But really and truly, it only took a while. After a while, the us in us, if you wish, the desperate, the Bible says that the heart of people, humanity is desperately wicked. Who can know it? That wicked side of us um, will only be afraid for so long. And then it begins to rise up, and all those things begin to come out. So even though right now there is more COVID in the world, more people are infected than ever before, the fact is we have gotten accustomed to that. And now we are saying the bad in me has to come out, all the stuff in me gotta come out. And so we're gonna have to deal with that. And we people are just now adjusting to that new normal. So okay, well, I have to wear a mask and wear the mask, but I still want to do my badness. I still want to do all the little things that are still there. We gonna have to figure out ways of of challenging people to to go deeper, challenging people to, like in a program like this, to say, hey, really, how do we actually change? Because we like the placidness of our society, but we have to go to a place to say we need something more that changes people's hearts. We are not going to be changed by all of these things. It's like we had 9/11, people were afraid to fly. After a while, they got over the fear of flying and realized, okay, I gotta wear, don't wear a belt, wear slippers, can't carry this anymore. You just do it and face the realities. So I think there's still a place where we, from a spiritual standpoint, have to say there is something greater. We've got to dig into that greater, recognize that there are people's hearts are still wicked, and find out how we're going to deal with that wickedness, how we're going to get deeper, help people to realize that there must be a better way that we can live.
yeah. So then, how do we go for? Let's introduce this concept of resilience. Janita, Shannon, if you want to touch on this as well. What is resilience? What exactly do we mean by resilience?
Well, that idea of recognizing that things might not always go good. That idea of recognizing that the heart of man is desperately wicked. That idea of living in a world where things might not always work out well, but still having a posture where you can figure out or position yourself to be successful, to strive, to thrive in the midst of that adversity, to figure out what it means to not think that if I am in a place of helplessness or if I feel hopeless, that I give up all hope, that I feel as if this is the end, I have failed, and I become very self-critical and very hard on myself, and I just stay there. Resilience is the ability of a person literally to bounce back from what you may say, from anything. Just being able to walk through adversity. I think one of the biggest characteristics of resilience is being able to recognize life isn't going to go perfect. Like if you haven't accepted that yet, resilience is going to be really hard for you because you're going to be just questioning God, questioning life, questioning why this, why that, and your ability to trust in God and your ability to recognize that, you know, these things can work out for my good as well. That is really important for us to be able to stand up in the midst of it. It calls on a lot of skills. And one of the skills I probably would emphasize here is the skill to ask for help. Resilient people don't do it on their own, despite what people think. I was talking to someone today and she's saying, you know, I thought I was strong. And I'm thinking, but you are strong. You bounced back from a real bad position. And you did it because you were able to bring your family in on it. You were able to bring your support system in on it. You know, it takes a lot of strength to receive help from people. Let me tell you, like, it takes a lot of strength. So that's one area of resilience I think that we can think about, even in the midst of everything else.
I love that. I love resilient people don't do it on their own. So listen, I need to say to people, guys, you need to share this live, start a watch party. We need to get the information out there. Shona, you were going to add.
Yeah. So I love the whole idea that she went away from the individual idea of resilience and brought in that whole collective aspect. And that's really important because when I see my neighbor doing it, when I see my co-worker doing it, it gives me the impression, well, if they could do it, I could possibly do it too. And if we all do it together, it puts us in a position that we can rise above whatever is happening. And I think the world came to that place when they recognized, okay, this country is managing it well. I think Trinidad, the Caribbean was looking at Trinidad in terms of how they took the approach that they took in terms of going forward. And I was hearing a lot of the comments for they're acting like a first world country. And I think sometimes we believe that, okay, we from the Caribbean, so no, 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 no. We have to be able to take a stance that says that regardless of where we're from, if we put our strength together as a collective, as a people, we're able to accomplish a lot. And I think that that's important for us going out of this. And it's not even really going out because it's just going to a different phase of it. We're going to a different phase where we expect we probably are going to get it back in waves coming in again because if people don't follow the protocols, and so they put in boundaries in place, they're setting things in position so that we don't go back to where we now came up from. But it's still going to be a challenge going forward. But we need the support of everyone, supporting each other, supporting the initiatives of the government, supporting the initiatives of whether it's your workplace, whatever committees or whatever bodies you are part of, and the things that they have in place, so that when we go forward as a people, each and every one of us is resilient, and it's not just a few, it's not just a handful, it's not just the elite, it's just not the upper class or the lower class, but it's all of us together. And I really like that whole idea because as a people we can become resilient.
Excellent. You know, we are looking at the new normal, transitioning, what a tongue tie moment, into this new normal, which is now becoming just I don't know, like we said earlier, it's like another wave, another stage of this pandemic. Um, and we know the rules. You observe social distancing. I watch our church on Sunday as they did such an excellent job. They had the temperature checking at the door, and they wrote your name, and it was just a different sort of experience. But I'm thinking, what are the regimes we have started talking about? I want us to delve a little bit more, two or three more if you can. What are some of the new, if they're new, or revived regimes that we have to follow to continue to build resilience? Yes, we have in the physical sense, we have the social distancing, we have the washing of our hands, we have our mask wearing, we have the staying at home if you're sick. That's what we're being told to do from the public health perspective. In the mental health setting, what are the things that we have to continue to do or to start to do? You guys started naming two of them. What are some other things we need to do to keep our mental health strong, even as we go through another stage of this pandemic?
This is not exactly new to this discussion that we're having, but I heard somebody mention just a couple days ago in dealing with all the challenges that we're dealing with, is to realize that our ancestors have done this before us. That our grandparents and great grands and even our parents went through some things that were quite difficult. I mean, I'm the last of 12 children, and it must have been difficult for my parents to provide food for all of us on an everyday basis. I don't recall ever going to bed hungry. I didn't have corn curls and all the fancy things, but my stomach was full. That is important because what that does is that it says that we are cut from a cloth of resilient people, that you can knock us down several times, but it doesn't mean you knock us out. Right? That is important, important mental positioning, that when you face this, you're facing this knowing, okay, I will be beaten up, but I will not be knocked out. And I think that's very, very important. From a faith perspective, to understand that God is with us in this struggle, that we don't go through this struggle. We don't face the uncertainties by itself. and to understand that it's like we are going into the wilderness. This is how God led Israel into the wilderness. And that at some point looked like they were running out of water, they were running out of food, they were running. But the scripture tells us that they never ran out of food, that their shoes did not wear out, nor did the clothes on their back wear out. And to say to people, listen, what may actually happen in this situation is that all them shoes that you have, a couple of them may dry rot because you will not need to wear all of them. And all the hats and all the fancy things that you have, you may come back to a very small circle of things that you're wearing. But you can survive this, and you will indeed survive this, because God is going to lead us through this wilderness. That it is unknown to us, but it is not unknown to God. And I think that that spiritual positioning is important. And that is something when it says, the Bible says that David encouraged himself in the Lord, the sense of speaking that over again. We may not be able to sing some of those songs as often and how we like to sing them in church. But the reality is, because you have YouTube and all the other fancy things that we have on our phones, you can sing it in your bathroom, you can sing it when you have your private moments, you can just go and sit down on your back step, eat your kidney mangoes or whatever mangoes you have, and then you are just singing these hymns and these songs. Because what they do is that as you sing them out, they're going down into your spirit and reminding you that, hey, we're from a long tradition of resilient people who God brought over difficult circumstances. So I want to would start from that position of faith, of saying, look to God. Look to God. You can look away and try to figure out, oh, what they're doing in America, what they're doing in Trinidad, what they're doing somewhere else. Look to God. We won't be able to sort some of these things out. I mean, the stories are changing every moment, right? The stories are changing. We may be able to contain our 39 in Antigua, but who knows? One may slip out, something else may happen. You just do not know. The variables change. All the assumptions change. God remains the same. Still resilient. Will still carry us through. We may have some hungry nights, but we'll make it out.
That was a hallelujah moment, indeed. I mean, and we need those. We need those moments. Andrea, you wanted to add something? I know you were motioning to
Yes,
say
and
something.
yes, after that moment, because I was thinking too that, sometimes we have had, all of us has had difficult moments throughout our lives. And what did we do back then? Because it also calls for a level of introspection. How did I get over that? Because you may not, and you can pull from things that you did before, right? And I think one of the other things that we also have to look at, COVID-19 is a time that we really have to look at our finances, right? We have to look at our budgeting. Have we been budgeting, and are we living? I know for some people it's very difficult, but are we accustomed to the spend as you earn? Okay. Um, I have a friend whose mom worked for, like, minimum wage, that 150 a week kind of thing. And she had 2 properties. Okay. Because she had that mindset that, if it's 5, it's $10. And whatever else I did, and if I got a little, and she's throwing box to, and the family is not hungry. Okay. And sometimes I would say, I really need to sit with her to get some financial advice. Right. And so, but we have a tendency. So now at this point, as we look back, and we look back at the opportunities we missed to save some of what we were earning, and then to have something to help us during this rough time. So I think that one of the things we also need to look at our budgeting skills or lack thereof, and look at where we can make the changes in this time.
Want to put you guys on the spot a little bit, but I know you guys can handle this, because we're looking at the new normal, transitioning. And as Rev and Andrea were speaking, all that came to me is those people who are walking out of their lockdowns with scars and trauma experiences. We had so many people who faced abuse during the lockdown periods. And it's enough trauma with COVID, but they now have to walk out with these stories they never had before. I want you, Janet, I want you could start, or maybe Chanel. Can we just say something to these people who have to walk out of their lockdown into this transition? Because now their transition is not even what we are seeing, in our regular way. What do we say to them? How do we get them to a place where they can now use these experiences, in addition to the COVID, but also their lockdown traumas, to build resilience to go forward with their new stories?
I think one of the important things, and we're looking at the strength-based perspective in this, is that you survived this. You have come this far. You actually came out of the lockdown, and that says something about you already. And because that says something about you, you just add to it in terms of your accessibility checklist. So what do you have access to? Who do you have access to? So is it social? Is it governmental? For yourself as a person, as an individual, because we have things that we can access on the inside, and if they were accessing certain things, which means they wouldn't have been able to come to the place where they're at now, that place of strength, that place that tells them, I do not want to be in a position like this again. What can I do differently? What were the mechanisms that helped me to get through up to this point? And they access those things within themselves and look for the support on the outside, whether it's social, whether it is church, whether it's government. And then at the end of the day, when you have all of this support, because the videos would have been there on Facebook, they would have been there on YouTube, and so they would have also been accessing those things, having a wealth of information coming in. So there's some things that they have stored and have put together for themselves. There was also a list of counselors, of therapists, and so this information was widely available. Who do you contact for help? Is somebody there to hear me? And so this information would have been there. So you add this to your accessibility checklist. And so you know that if this is my issue, I want to move from here. I've done so well so far. I want to move on from this point. What or who can I access to go forward?
So it's about accessing the correct help at this time.
Yeah.
What about, okay. Mm-hmm.
No,
So
I
what
was
about,
just adding that.
Go ahead.
No, I was just adding that one of the strong points for them, and we're speaking about resilience, is the fact that they've been able to come out. Is a difference if you're coming out alive, or if it's a difference if the ambulance is coming for you. That wasn't the case, of which it says something about you and how you've been able to keep your head above water. And that's an important message to take away. It's like a pat on the back. You've done well so far. What is the next step?
Excellent. Janet, you want to add to that?
I think that summarizes it really well. I probably, if I were to put myself in the shoes, which I can't, to be fair, I would think that most persons who would have gone through some sort of emotional, mental, physical, sexual abuse, harassment, assault, I had a couple clients who I had to Google emotional abuse and send it to them, and they were ticking off everything. It's a lot of persons aren't even aware, that's what they've been through. They know they've been through something, but they really can't put their finger on it, or they're not even aware that what they've been through is so immense. They just think, well, this is just an everyday thing now for me. This is what relationships look like for me. This is what family looks like for me. No, I think to be able to even begin to access some of this stuff, which I think just doing that assessment is really important. Persons got to come to a place of accepting that this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what has happened, and we're not right now pointing fingers at you. Don't point fingers at yourself, because that's the first thing most persons do. But we really we got to be able to call a spade a spade. And a lot of persons have, as you rightly said, Billy and Chanel, a lot of persons have been through a really horrific time, and they've come through and they've survived. But a lot of them are going to deny it. Unfortunately, a lot of them are going to say, no, it's not that big a deal, because it would have crushed their confidence and crushed their esteem, and they're not going to think they deserve better. But I want to say to anyone out there who, if you just have an inkling of an idea that, no, this wasn't right, you know, the way this person spoke to me or the way they made me feel wasn't right, even if they invalidate your thoughts, and there's a lot of talk of gaslighting and different terminologies now, even if you know what none of that means, if you just feel an inkling of something, speak to someone about it. Speak to someone you trust, someone that can reflect that back to you and let you hear it for yourself. Because sometimes that's all people need to do is hear it for themselves and realize, no, that, well, if that was my friend, I don't like that, you know, and then they realize, no, I don't like that for me. So that's kind of what I would say in this situation. And then recognize that because you've been so drained, you might need to pour into yourself and start some habits of self-care as well.
If I can
Excellent.
jump in there, Billy, just as Chanel and Janita were talking, what was coming to me, the whole sense of personal affirmation. Janita was saying the person may not want to admit that it happens, not a big deal. But the sense is that one of the challenges I think that the church has in this time, and I'm not just talking about COVID, but going forward, is to move away from a culture of shame and to enter into a culture of grace. We're very quick to point fingers. We're very quick to make people feel bad about themselves. Oh, you wicked, you are such a sinful person. You are so terrible. But yeah, we all sin and come short. And sometimes we point fingers even though we ourselves have issues. But to get to the point where we embrace a culture of grace, where we're saying, okay, yes, things happen to you that should not have happened. You were abused in this particular way. You really, things are negative. But understand that there's a God who has grace that is greater. There's a God who loves you in spite of you. There's a God who says that you are valuable, fearfully and wonderfully made, marvelous. People may speak down to you, but somehow seek to understand that there's an image in you that God deposited in you, stamped in you, that formed you, that the fingerprint of God is on your life. And as such, because the fingerprint of God is on your life, you are valuable. And so as to embrace that culture of grace, that grace is sufficient. Grace gives me another chance. Grace says that I can go further than here. That even though I think I'm a nobody and this person treats me like a nobody, that I can do better than him or her, right? And so, the Jamaicans have a song, the university singers used to sing a song, one hand can't clap. But at some point, you have to understand that, yes, I may have to stand by myself and I may be able to clap, but I'll have to sing solo by myself because the other person on the other side does not validate my voice, does not validate who I am. And to live in that space is to contribute to our own demise. And so we have to help to understand that we're available to come and have conversation. We're available there to point you to new places, that there are counseling psychologists, that there are psychiatrists, that there are counselors, that there are people who can speak with you and help you and point you to the new places to realize, okay, there may be a way out. It might not happen tomorrow. There may be a way out of this circumstance where I can reclaim my dignity and reclaim my image and find myself again, so that when this lockdown happens again, I don't necessarily have to go through that kind of abuse.
Yeah, no, what I hear coming out from you guys, I'm hearing own your pain, name your pain, share your pain, and heal from your pain. I mean, it's a difficult thing. It's a burden that people have to carry, but it's a process that we must go through if we are going to make it. And so I want to say to persons who are watching, if you had a horrific lockdown, whether mental health issues were plaguing you, whether you are dealing with the fear of the financial fallout, whether you are dealing with some sort of abuse, you are able to go forward. As was said, you made it this far. And if you need a hand to make it to the next step in this transition period, reach out a hand, say something, speak to somebody. In one of the provinces that conferences, talk to somebody, because there are persons all over who can assist you. You made it this far. And there's a song that I love from a long time ago. He didn't bring you this far to leave you, and you don't have to give up now. So please, we're here for you and you can make it. All right, so we have a few minutes just to wrap up and to just take it down. So I want us to just look at that issue of um, getting now into the, so let's get my notes, looking at the other things that are going on around us, and getting through that. And there's one thing I want to mention about the member, I'll come to that in a few minutes. But how do we get through these other things? So we're going a little further now. The other things, yes, they're going to be some of the same strategies, yes, but can we identify some of the other things that could pose a threat to the mental health of persons in our environment, and what they can do to get through? I know we talked about the hurricane. We can talk about the hurricane season. Right now, we're experiencing the Sahara dust, and let me tell you, this is not even a joke anymore. I saw a car the other day, and you know where my mind went back to? It was from Antigua. I went back to when the Montserrat volcano erupted. I'm like, this just took me right back. And for an instant, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not good. You know, these are just the realities that we're facing. What are some other things that we can alert people to that may bring them a sense of collective fear or even individual fear that they may need to get through? Anybody can start. Go ahead, Chanel.
Okay, so one of the things that people are looking at is with borders opening back. And then there's the fear. Okay, so for our Caribbean islands where we have our crop over, the festivals that we have throughout the islands. And so we coming out to a COVID period, we're coming into a different phase of COVID, and we are recently opening back the borders because we're also looking at the economic impact that would have affected the countries as well. And so then there's a fear of people feeling like, okay, there's a whole set of people that are going to flock to our island, or do we even continue with the particular festival that we would have had in mind for the coming stages? So there's a festival supposed to come up in July, there's one in August, because the summertime is usually the period where you have these festivals happening. And so conversations are going to go in that route soon enough. Do we have it? Do we not have it? Because we've already been crushed so far by the economic impact. Do we allow ourselves to be crushed further because this is another source of income, or do we look at the general health of the country? And so these are some of the things that we're going to see happening coming up soon with the different Caribbean islands as the borders begin to open back. So that's one of the things.
Excellent. Yes. And go ahead, Janita. So you're going to mention something.
Yeah, I was going to touch on the hurricane season. As we know, our climate change I think climate change has really caused a lot of problems, more so for our region than any other region in the world. I might be presumptuous, but I feel so in my heart. There's more active earthquakes now than ever before. There's this dust was mad. This was the worst it's ever been that I've ever seen it. Normally, because Barbados is the most easterly country, we tend to get it first before everybody else. And when we saw the cloud coming in from the east coming across, it was like, this is mad. You know, it's crazy. But then, you know, we know in the last few years we had some devastating Category 5 stuff, man. Just in a few days, just evolved really quickly to these massive monster storms. And we really got to pray because it's out of our hands, really. But, you know, if you think about that and we think about what a lot of the countries went through in the last few years with these monster storms, you get fearful, you get worried, you get concerned. And it's like another thing, you know, to think about. So really in terms of these things, in terms of figuring it out, the most, you know, we like to do that, I can't remember what it's called now, but that idea of, you know, you do what you can deal with, you deal with what you can change, and what you can't change, you kind of, you know, leave out. So you do your preparations by all means, as you are financially capable, you know, link up with other people, do your preparation, don't take it for granted. Don't like go into a little denial bubble and think, well, we should be good. You know, we already had COVID. 2020 can't get any worse. Just, you know, just don't do that. You know, be really conscientious and do as much as you can to prepare yourself for the hurricane season. You know, we are in the Caribbean. We are exposed. Unfortunately, other people's habits affect us really directly, and that's something that we can't really take for granted. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. You know, there's one way that we can prepare you. I think you're hinting there, Janita, at the serenity. Grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I like to change it. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the only thing I can change is me. And so we are not able to change the atmospheric conditions. We're not able to change the people around us. I mean, some of us are going into political season saying kids just had an election, trying to make it get ready for politics, the United States. So a lot of things we're not going to be able to change, but we have something that we can hold on to, our anchor of faith. And I want us to end on that. We are professionals, most of us in the field. Well, I say most of us because Rev the Rev faster, but others of us are trained in the secular field. We're trained in psychology, and we had Brian, who's a psychiatrist. Um, we've had so many other persons on the program throughout the weeks. But one thing I think we have held on to, and that also guides our life, is our faith. I want us to just encourage people as we wrap up this afternoon about using our faith to go forward in these uncertain times. And we've already mentioned so much of it. We mentioned those coming out with trauma stories. We mentioned walking into our hurricane seasons, our changing the environmental factors. We mentioned people not having jobs to go back to, or having different types of experiences at work. There's so many things that are changing, that have changed, and will continue to change. And at the end of the day, the only thing we are certain of right now in this transition period is that we do not know what's going to happen next. And just saying it is a scary thought, but that's all we can hold on to in that sense. But what keeps us grounded is our faith. Rev, can you just take us out? Well, the others will do that as well. We will share on that. But where do we place our faith now at this critical transitional period in this time?
Um, well, obviously, I'm going to say place your faith in God. And that by itself is a challenge. It opens all kinds of opportunities. When you mentioned some things earlier, my mind ran also on those young people who were planning to go off to university this year, who were looking forward to going off. Some maybe have put it off one time, two times. Now it's okay, this is the time. And now you're in this place of uncertainty. But I like Isaiah 46, and I want to challenge us to hold on to this. Isaiah 46, in fact, that whole section of Isaiah 43 and 46 as well. Verses 3 and 4 says, "Listen to me, descendants of Jacob, and all you who remain in Israel. I've cared for you since you were born. Yes, I carried you before you were born. I will be your God through your lifetime, until your hair is white with age. I made you, and I will care for you. I will carry you along and save you." I can't make it any clearer than that, where God is saying, listen, you could jump high, you could jump low, you could dodge it, you could twist in every direction. End of the day, I'm it. Turn in that direction. It's not as simple as that. From this, you need direction, you need other people. But that's why you have programs like this. That's why there are churches in your community. That's why there are saints around. There are people who you can reach out and say, help me. I understand how this works for me. How can it work? God is available.
Thank you so much for that. And as we wrap up, I was just thinking about New Year's this year. And if everybody remembered the whole New Year's thing, going into a new, whatever it is, that we're going into 21. And it's a declaration. This is going to be the greatest year. It's a 2020 double number, and people are expecting so many great things. And well, 2020 came as it was, I guess, supposed to come. Here's why I'm saying this, people. I don't want us to lose hope and faith because we decided to declare what 2020 was going to be. Because this may actually be a great gem in the rough of a year. There's so many things that we have learned in 2020. There's so many things that we have lost, but so many things we have gained in 2020. As a matter of fact, the things that we didn't pay attention to, all of a sudden we paid attention to them. And so this this may be the treasure in earthen vessels. So we are here to just encourage you. We have 6 more months to go. We don't know what's going to come, but we're going to hold on to the God who keeps us strong, and we are going to reach out when we need help. We are resilient people. I love what Rev said when he talked about what somebody shared the other day. We are cut from a noble cloth. We're not black and indigent or Caribbean and poor. We have stately backgrounds and stately heritage. And so guys, as we go forward into this new phase of uncertainty, of having to look back on loss and great changes, I want us to hold on to the fact that God still remains the unchanging one. Guys, we are at the end. Another Courage in Crisis. I still love the name because we are courageous people, and we have the God in us who makes us courageous. So no matter what you face going forward, please, again, I'm saying it because there's a reason for us saying it. Reach out. Name your pain, claim or own your pain, but share your pain. And that's how you're going to get healing. Thank you so much. Again, I want to just say to Brian, wherever he is with his family, we are praying for you. We love you. You're part of our team. You're part of us. And in this time of difficulty, just know that you're not alone. That's what it is, That's what it is, that you are not alone. Not only Brian, but all of us out there, you're not alone. So guys, thank you again for being with us, and have a wonderful week. That's it for us for this week with Courage in Crisis. See you next time.